On today's episode of the Glue Guys, terror has struck Brooklyn. 2 weeks evaluation timetable for an isolated MCL injury to MVP candidate Kevin Durant. We will talk about that amongst ourselves, and then we will be joined by Dr. Neeraj Patel, who is an expert on the issue of ligaments and the recovery timetable. He is going to join us. Massive Nets fan. He'll talk to us coming up right here on the Glue Guys podcast.
I'm scared, Mike. Hold me.
Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian.
Hello.
Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys, netsdaily.com, The Athletic. Get yourself on the paywall, theathletic.com/GlueGuys, a subsidiary of the New York Times. Brian?
My goal.
The Nets are falling apart.
No.
The Nets are falling apart. This is it, Brian.
Yeah.
This is we had a good 2022.
Wizards fan Mike Smeltz.
Ugly fat ass. How are you?
Wizards fan Mike Smeltz just really enjoying himself.
I'm going to hop ship. I'm hopping ship. This is it.
Okay.
Whilst the Nets have just been completely dominant and fantastic and pulled off an incredible win down in Miami, it's apropos that they were in South Beach because their season is going south as we speak. No, it's not that dreary. Brian, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm a little worried. I'm a little bit worried. It's okay though, right? Everything's gonna be fine. It's just 2 weeks, and then there's a review, and then we should wait till the doctor pops in, right?
The good doctor, Dr. Neeraj Patel, who's been massive fan of the Nets, has always brought some kind of interesting Nets swag. I hope I'm not like setting expectations where he's gonna have like a Jason Kidd or Keith Van Horn jersey on. But he's a real doctor who deals with ligament injuries, and he'll come on to talk about KD's isolated MCL sprain on his right knee. Reevaluation in 2 weeks, according to the Nets. Just a quick data point for everyone here.
Okay.
I don't know if people remember, but KD hurt his knee last year as well. Different knee, but he hurt it. Worse injury last year. Last year, I think it was a partially torn MCL. Yes, Brian.
I was just I haven't seen in much of the reporting about this, but in that Miami game, there's like 2 back-to-back plays. And did people talk about this a little bit? I didn't know if they talked about the Lowry one.
But no one's really talked about the Lowry play,
right?
And I thought that was actually one of the that's as inciting as the Butler fall into.
Yeah, I should have gone back in and looked if it was the same knee. What's the knee that he hurt? I think it was the Lowry one seemed to hurt his left knee, but I don't know if that would just bang knees.
Yeah, Lowry one was left knee, but I thought the right knee. So the play that Brian's talking about is like KD's going to the bucket. Lowry slides in for the charge, which is he's famous. He's the most charged man.
Yeah, incredibly charged.
Recent NBA history.
Charged up.
And he slides under KD. Looks like KD's left foot steps on Lowry, and then the right leg does something maybe a little goofy. But of course, the play that everyone knows is the Butler flying in, just aiming for KD's MCL, like
homing
completely
missile.
Targeting it.
Yeah,
he was Terminator coming out of the. He was naked in the streets coming out of fire.
It was Avatar 2, people hunting the sentient whales with laser-guided harpoons, Mike. Which, by the way, I've been thinking about Avatar 2. Let's not bury the lead. We can talk about that later.
I did lose my mind when the whale said something like, "It's too painful."
No, dude, I've been actually waiting for that meme to come out of just the eyeball and just being "it's too painful." That needs to be.
Don't you
memed.
feel like they didn't really introduce the fact that whales could talk or communicate in that way like enough before they got to it's too painful?
Well, I'll just get into the thing, which is that like the I forget what they're called, the blue people in Avatar, whatever they are.
The Na'vi.
The Na'vi. That the Na'vi really seem to like connect with sentient like animal life, but if you're just a fish, like get speared, loser. Like we're gonna eat. They don't care at all about anything that they can eat. Right in the beginning of the movie, they're like, "Yeah, f that fish, stupid ass fish."
I love that take, like James Cameron. Like,
it's a very human approach to it. It's like we really respect anything that feels pain, has some level of consciousness, But if it's just a fish, we're gonna kill you.
I will say I don't think he's getting enough credit for having gigantic whales to have like personality and histories and to the Tokun, I think they're called.
Okay.
Something like that. You haven't studied up on your.
I mean, I saw it. I watched the movie.
I'm going to see it again.
I know you are.
I'm definitely going to see it again.
What about that MCL?
Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, MCL. I have a couple of questions for you. And the good doctor is going to pop on
Okay.
at some point.
He's just going to pop right in. I love it.
It's gonna be a pop in. So here's my couple of questions for you. Again, the Nets. This is a statistic. I think it matters to know this bit of data going into this. Last season, before Kevin Durant's injury to his other MCL, that was a more significant injury. We knew that at the front. The Nets were 27-15. They are now 27-13. Last season, they were second in the East. Right now, they are second in the East. By the time Kevin Durant came back from his injury, the Nets were 32-31. They were eighth in the East. We'd had the whole Harden debacle. The season was essentially over before we just didn't really know it. We thought maybe Ben Simmons would come back and save us as well, and Ben Simmons never came back and saved the Nets. Tell me this is different, Brian. Yeah. Why is this different?
It made me think.
Why should I have faith?
It made
me any different.
A lot of the people's responses, and you put this out on Twitter, which was exciting. We got a lot of interesting responses, but it just really put into focus for me really how shitty it is to be a head coach in the NBA, because like a lot of the questions or the responses is like, well, now it's Jacques Vaughn's time to shine. So like, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna see if that like 12-game winning streak was a fluke. So like, get none of the credit when things are going well if you have your best players. Take all the responsibility when things are potentially not going well and you don't have your best players. It's just it's a crummy job, Mike. It's a pretty crummy job from the PR perspective. So anyways, everyone's
particularly because we know nothing.
Right.
Like we ultimately know nothing about what goes into being a head coach and the successes and failures of such, even though I think Steve Nash is a bad head coach and has yet to really fully been reckoned with. And in terms of like, people like him too much to consider him like a complete failure, which is what he was.
And caveat, let me say, I don't think it's the wrong approach. I'm just admiring how shitty a position it puts Jacques Vaughn in. It's not a bad take. It's just, anyways. So there's that element. And then there's also like, it's the responsibility falls to your next best players. So is Kyrie and Ben in the position right now? Or have they solidified their roles to the extent that they can weather the storm? And I'm not talking about another, 10-game win streak, weather the storm. It's like, I don't know, you posted the schedule. How many of those?
Are you predicting a 10-game win streak? That's what you're doing right here?
I'm going on record. No, I'm just saying, like,
it's better without Kevin Durant.
What is success in this period of time? And let's call it, I don't know, like we'll wait for the doctor to make his estimation, but let's say 2 weeks to a month. Are we playing 500 basketball? Is that a success story? Like, let's set our expectations now so that when something good or bad happens, we're not freaking out.
Okay, so an important thing to know is that from everything I've seen before the good doctor gets on the show is that 2 weeks is just simply like, hey, that's reevaluation time. There's no way that he'll be back within 2 weeks. From everything I'm seeing, if he is, it's almost dangerous that he plays within 2 weeks. Here's the schedule coming up, and it is interesting, as I always say. I'll tell you when I don't have an interesting schedule for the Nets, but I'm always intrigued by it.
Yeah, you love a schedule.
They don't play. Oh God, gets me jazzed up.
Yeah, a little planner,
a little agenda. Wow. Like, what am I going to do on Thursday the 12th? Well, I'm going to be watching the Boston Celtics versus your Brooklyn Nets. The Nets don't play again until Thursday. Then they play the Celtics. Then they play again. That's at a home game. They don't play again until Sunday. Another home game against the Thunder, and then they go on a 5-game road trip where within that they play 4 games in 6 nights. Spurs, Suns, Jazz, Warriors. Back to the East Coast, 76ers. So that would take us through the 2-week timetable where we're going to reevaluate Kevin Durant. I don't think that there's any chance. He's just not coming back in between that. It seems like, from what I can tell, of an isolated, which I'm going to ask the question about, sprained MCL, you're not coming back. The Nets play, I think the next something like 9 of the next 10 games would then be at home. Pistons, Knicks, Lakers, at Boston. An Excella corridor trip. An easy Excella. Is an Excella goes to Boston, or does it only go New York to D.C.?
Don't ask me stuff like that.
I don't really give a shit. Yeah. And then Wizards, Clippers, Suns, Bulls, 76ers, all home games. A long home stretch that takes us through. That's beginning of February to mid-February. When I just randomly list out their games, I feel like that's bad communication, bad podcasting, because I gave no breath in between for people to consider the schedule. But I urge everyone to go look at the schedule. There are wins to be had if you're a weakened team. But there, of course, are a lot of good games. There's a lot of tough matchups. The Suns, even though they're bad right now, could be a tough matchup. At the Warriors, tough. At 76ers, very 2 Boston games. But there's a lot of potential dubs in there. So I think 500. I think if the Nets stay afloat.
So 500 is a success story, is what you're saying, right?
I think that's a success story. I wouldn't even say it's expectation. I would just say that's because we have to remember how important Kevin Durant is that he's a top 5 player in the NBA. Some say the best player in the NBA, easily the most sort of, distinct offensive force because of his shot making from places on the floor. There was a great graphic of, I forget who it was from, but of all the spots on the floor, who's the best in the NBA? And Kevin Durant owns the entire mid-range rainbow. The entire mid-range rainbow, it's Kevin Durant. So he's pretty good. I don't know. Do you think 500 is? Can we feel okay?
I think I think as long as we're on the same page with where our expectations are, it's going to be fine. So if we're, I mean, for me, I think 500 feels really good. I want to remember this feeling now of being excited about potentially being 500, so that when we're 3 and 5 or whatever doing that's I'm not freaking out that there's still time. Because it's easy because humans are flawed. We have goldfish memory. And we like to panic at short-term results. So yeah, I think thinking about it now, that's what I'm hopeful for. And obviously it remains to be seen and also, Mike, we got to think about, is this going to be a referendum on how many minutes KD is playing in regular season right now? He's playing a lot of minutes.
I'm going to ask that to the doctor because I always feel like I think you could argue either way. I'm going to be on the side of a dude fell into his leg. That's what are you going to do? But then, do you remember last year? Wasn't when Kevin Durant got hurt? The guy Tommy Beers or whatever came out and was at the same time Kevin Durant was also playing many minutes under Steve Nash, and that guy was saying, "This is why you can't play Kevin Durant so many minutes." The slight argument that you have is that if he's not playing as many minutes, there's less chance to get hurt by a human flying into your MCL.
It is weird. It's a weird way of thinking about it because freak accidents or whatever. But there is a underlying logic there, but it's just not it's the same kind of thing. It's if you're playing 5 minutes a night, yes, you have less likely of a chance to have a freak accident happening. But it's a weird argument to make. It's tough.
And I don't have the data in front of me and the doctor's popping on, but it felt like KD was playing less more recently just because there have been a couple of blowouts in there. Let's do this quick break. Coming back, we'll be with Dr. Neeraj Patel.
Oh, yeah.
There he is.
Yeah.
Look at Syracuse.
Here we are.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Derek Coleman.
The Derek Coleman.
Wow. That's a great one.
We were just going to ask you.
How are we doing?
Good, man. How's it going for you? What's going on in your world?
Not too bad. Just, gutting out the Chicago cold here, but not too bad. What's your background there?
He's got MCLs with, it looks like dogs inside of them. What is the symbolism of the dogs?
Yeah.
It's the meme, how that team has got that dog in them. There's a famous meme now of a chest X-ray and there's
the X-ray. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some dogs. This is the best I could do.
Did you make that? That's a handmade meme. Wow, I'm impressed.
You are impressed.
I didn't realize it. You got it off.
You're a good friend.
You got it off Twitter.
You're impressed by this.
Mine's just Bane because we've been born in the darkness. We're used to this, Dr. Patel. These types of this bad news. We're used to it. We come from this darkness.
Misery loves company.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Let's just hop into it, and then we're gonna come back from break and say hey, this is Dr.
This is in the show. What are you talking about? We're keeping.
Okay. This is the show because I want people to know about how good my meme is.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
All right, Doctor, give people your CV again. Middle school, high school. Wait, then I got college, but
yeah,
just tell us what you do and why you're a legitimate person as opposed to us.
Middle school, John Adams Middle School,
Wow.
Edison, New Jersey.
That's
I'm a Jersey guy.
Shout out. What was the mascot for the Edisons?
Ooh, what were we? The middle school mascot. I think it was what were we, the Knights? Man, I don't remember now.
It's tough.
My high school was the J.P. Stevens Hawks, so we didn't have much to talk about as far as sports go, but we had a great average SAT score, so we had that going for us. Yeah.
That's what counts, I hear.
Yeah, so I'm an orthopedic surgeon in Chicago. I'm at Lurie Children's Hospital. I specialize in pediatric sports medicine, so take care of a lot of young athletes with things like ACL tears, meniscus problems, joint instability, MCL injuries, those kind of things.
Okay, so you see the play last night. Were you watching the game live, or did you get it via Twitter?
Via Twitter, yep. Yeah, we
Okay,
don't get
what are
Yes
you
Network out in
thinking?
Chicago, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. What are you thinking when you see that? When you saw the Jimmy Butler flying in to our dear Kevin Durant into his directly aiming right at his MCL. What do you think of?
I mean, it was shades of January 2022, right? When I saw the clip, I mean, my first thought was like, oh, MCL again, right? And
Well,
and that kind of mechanism is pretty characteristic, as we found. Unfortunately, Nets fans are now very experienced. It's pretty characteristic way to end up with an MCL injury. Essentially, somebody falls or hits you on the outer part of the knee. The knee kind of turns inwards, if you will, and then the MCL is that inner structure on the inner part of the knee that then gets stressed and stretched and can get injured. So pretty common way to injure your MCL. Obviously, just looking at a clip real quick, bang bang on Twitter doesn't tell you the whole story, so you never know. But
Are you sure?
pretty
Are you sure? I
pretty
feel like
common.
that was. I feel like what else do you need? You know, what else do you need from that?
Yeah, right.
MRI. What does that do for you?
Who needs to actually look at the patient, right? Touch them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Virtual medicine, man. It's 2023.
that's right. It's the way of the future.
There's this idea that this is like getting off light, right? That it could have been way worse. Can you speak to that? Like, is this if there's going to be an injury, this is on the lighter end, or do you disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is on the lighter end for sure. I mean, the best case scenario was nothing happened, right? And he's back in a game or two. But all things considered, I think if what we're hearing is accurate, which makes it sound like it's probably a low grade MCL injury, and they're going to reevaluate him in 2 weeks, and hopefully after that we'll get some good news and he'll be able to work himself back. That kind of hints to us that this is probably kind of like a grade 1 MCL injury, which is the most minor type, if you will, and he's just got to kind of let it rest and heal up over time. Um, so in some ways, this is the best case scenario. I think the worst case scenario would have been obviously something that would have been season ending, that needs surgery, that kind of death. Oh my goodness.
Death.
Yeah.
Death is pretty bad.
Exactly. Right. That would be bad. I don't know. Jimmy Butler, he could do that to you, I guess. But
he's that bad.
But yeah, certainly glad it wasn't anything worse than it is.
The word we're hearing, isolated. I guess I understand it. I mean, meaning like it was just the MCL, but like I usually I don't hear it described that way. Isolated MCL. Can you just explain what they mean by that? Is it literally like, oh, it only hurt the MCL?
Correct. That's exactly it. Right. So all they mean to say is that only the MCL was injured, and in theory, again, when they got that MRI and all that, in theory, there could have been damage to other things inside the knee, the meniscus, the ACL, other things like that, bone bruising, even maybe. But I think that's just saying that none of that stuff was seen, and so it's just the MCL. And of course, they never released information on exactly the severity of the MCL sprain and that kind of thing, grade 1, grade 2. But yes, it was just the MCL injury from what they're telling us.
Brian, you had it was a common discussion about KD playing too many. No, KD playing too many minutes, right? We were trying to figure out, like, we're all doctors on Twitter, and immediately people are like, oh, if you didn't play him too many minutes, he wouldn't have gotten hurt in the situation. He's weaker. As a doctor, what do you say to that theory, particularly in this circumstance when, again, Jimmy Butler targeted Kevin Durant's MCL?
I can't speak to the targeting or not, but yes, he did fall into him, right? So I think that kind of injury is probably not so much the result of fatigue or overdoing it or that kind of thing, too many minutes. There's other situations where we may think of that as a factor, but this was one of those. I mean, kind of like what happened last year, honestly. A little bit of bad luck. I think he's a 7-foot guy with really long legs, and gets in the mix sometimes, and that's the risk that you take, unfortunately, when you're his size and play the way he does. So no, I don't think this is directly related to too many minutes before that or anything like that. I think this is unfortunately, just wrong place, wrong time. But that can happen with his size and the way he plays.
And then going forward into the rest of the regular season, is this the kind of thing where it's a minutes management type scenario, or is it like, okay, you've rested it, you did the work, and then we can get back to business as usual, playing your standard near 48 minutes every regular season game?
Man, we got to do something about those minutes regardless.
That's a lot.
He can't be playing that many minutes.
It is a lot.
No, certainly. So if this really is just a grade 1 type of injury, which sounds like it hopefully is, he should be able to get back relatively quickly. Like we said, like 2 to 4 weeks tops, hopefully on the shorter part of that. And knowing the Nets, there'll probably be some amount of a ramp up period or some minutes restrictions initially, just as you kind of, shake off some of that rust of 2 weeks off from, NBA gameplay. I would say the shorter he's out, the less that ramp up period probably has to be, which, is sort of intuitive. So I don't think this should have any longer lasting repercussions or limit him long term or anything like that. So you might see a short period of time where he's on a little bit of minutes restriction or something like that. But if he comes back relatively soon, then that shouldn't be too big of a concern.
I don't. Do we have any other Kevin Durant questions? I have one question about another net. Joe Harris, maybe he's not great. How much do we blame his ankle injury from last year? Because there's some idea out there that it's not that he's not great, but he has not really played a great game recently, and there's some idea that that ankle injury was worse and that it's taken him a long time to fully come back to form because he really hasn't in terms of being out on the floor. I think that's more of a function of the offense. But is it possible that an ankle injury could have? I mean, that happened almost a year ago now, right? Is there any? Can he blame his ankle for not being as good at basketball this year?
I'll say this. I think the short answer is yes, it's possible.
You're too charitable. Jeez, come on.
Yeah.
See, here's the lane. There's not many doctors who are hot take doctors, and I want that to be your lane. You come in Skip Bayless of doctors, and just really this guy should be playing right now. He should be playing better. That injury is a false flag. That should be your lane. No one takes that lane for medical perspective.
I don't know, man. That's not my style, I guess. What can I tell you? Yeah, there's certainly a chance it could be limiting him. I mean, it has been a while, and the other thing is any of these surgeries that we do, some are by the numbers more successful than others, et cetera, but none of them are ever guaranteed to be 100% successful, right? Even with the best surgeon, the best rehab, et cetera. So there is a chance, who knows, that for whatever reason, he's just taking a little bit longer than you'd expect, or he's not back at the form you'd expect. I'll be honest with you again, right now living out in Chicago, I just haven't seen him as much in person. So it's hard for me to comment on exactly what he looks like when he's out there, right? I mean, you think of your ankle being important and ankle stability and strength control being important when you're, jumping, cutting, that kind of stuff, quick change of pace type of things. And to be totally honest with you, I haven't watched him enough this year so far to really be able to comment on that. If those things are what the issue is, then yeah, maybe he's still shaking off a little bit of rust, or maybe there's still a little bit of, leftover effects from that surgery and all. Everyone can take different periods of time to rehab and recover. But
you see,
I also saw stuff the other day. Well,
this is just not. No. You're like, oh, I haven't seen him that much. No, you just don't worry about that. Just
make something up and go.
Yeah, just make it. That's how you become a success like us.
Yeah.
I will say personal anecdote wise, after I had a Jones fracture 2 years ago, and ever since I roll my ankle twice. It's a Jones fracture. Twice a week I keep rolling my ankle, and will it ever go back? This is me just now soliciting free medical advice from you. Will it ever go back to not being a roll? Just rolling my ankle all the time.
I mean, so that kind of thing is usually related to some amount of strength and control of that joint, right? Mm. So, you had an injury, you had surgery, and some amount of that was lost in that process, right? And it's a matter of working yourself back.
I never did.
Could Joe Harris be experiencing a little bit of that on a smaller level? Maybe, I don't know. Hard for me to say. But I did see a stat the other day comparing his stats when he starts versus when he comes off the bench, and they were drastically different from each other. So again,
interesting.
I'm not going to try to blame his ankle for everything. Maybe there's something else to it as far as the rhythm and all that goes. Depending on how he's used.
Just so I know, which one is better, starting or coming off the bench?
His numbers are better as a starter.
Aha.
Yeah. So I was ready to go in on Joe Harris today because he's just put up a bunch of single point performances, but then I dug into the numbers, not the ones that you saw, But he is shooting so I was like, okay, since the start of December, he's played 22 minutes a game and only scored 8 points a game and really doesn't do much else, right? Ultimately, he's not a rebounder, he's not an assist guy, all that stuff. But he's shooting 50% from 3 since the start of December because he only takes 3 a game. So I really what I think the Joe Harris issue is that as much as the Steve Nash offense has been maligned because maybe it was too complex for all the moving pieces that were happening in and out of the Nets lineup, at least having a more structured system helps a guy like Joe Harris, a guy who comes off of screens, and let's try to get Joe this open shot. Let's work 3 passes to get Joe the open shot, where, what Jacques Vaughn has done is simplify the offense completely. We always start the possession with Kevin Durant or Kyrie getting the ball, and then we'll move it, open man shot. Whoever's open takes the shot. It's a lot more ball movement as opposed to trying to specifically angle for an outcome. And that affects Joe Harris because he's a guy who relies on mostly getting an open look from a pass and a screen and all that stuff. So, I would, it's not that I would love to go in on Joe Harris. And I would have loved if you give me that piece of information that was he's being a big baby. But I actually just think they're just not running things for Joe Harris. He's still shooting, again, 50% from 3 since December when it's a time period when we're Joe Harris hasn't been good at all. Where Royce O'Neal is kind of the other end of the spectrum. Where a lot of things happen for him. There's
other options there too, right? It's not just Joe Harris that can take those shots, right? We've got Watanabe all of a sudden who's leading the league in 3-point percentage. Seth Curry, Royce O'Neal, those guys can shoot it too. Obviously, Katie and Kyrie. So, I don't think I can blame that completely on his ankle. Even if there's something there, I think there's probably more going on as far as usage and minutes and some of those kind of things too.
All right, one more time, what would be the optimum? Not optimum, because probably the optimum recovery time for Kevin Durant is 3 months, or whatever. What is a semi-realistic? Tell me the exact game when Kevin Durant. Let's pull up the schedule. When is KD going to come back and play? Just about, whatever.
Yeah. So I think best case scenario would be about 2 weeks, right? And so if it's a grade 1 MCL sprain, typically we say 2 to 4 weeks roughly for those. So I would say 2 weeks is realistically probably the soonest to let him back. And we all know how the Nets, how they roll, right? And they take everything very cautiously, especially with Kevin Durant, right? They're going to be taking their time, the ramp off, all that stuff. So I think best case scenario is probably 2 weeks. If it's a grade 1 sprain, probably the longer end of that holdout would be about 4 weeks. But either way, I think both those would put us before the All-Star break. So my hope would be sometime before that All-Star break, he's back. I know they said they're going to reevaluate him in 2 weeks, right? So what that tells me is that it's probably most likely a grade 1 sprain. If he looks great in 2 weeks, no pain, no instability, no limb, no swelling, none of that, then they'll probably start working him back in some way, shape, or form. If he's still having any symptoms, they might hold him out another 2 weeks or something like that, right? So it doesn't sound like, again, from what we're hearing, I'm not his physician, obviously, his surgeon. When we're hearing, it doesn't sound like this is like last year, where last year was probably grade 2, where he was out more like that 6 to 8 week mark. It sounds like he's hopeful to get back earlier here, and I would say 2 to 4 weeks is realistic.
Do they give him any fun pain pills? And can we expect his Twitter activity to be awesome? That what
I don't think he needs pills to have.
True. Yeah, that's organic.
Nothing's going on Twitter. Yeah, I think he's got that all by himself naturally. Yeah, he'll probably have more time on his hands, so that's all he needs.
True.
Last
one for you. How you feeling about the Nets? You must feel elated. I mean, aren't we? I
feel pretty good, man. I'll tell you. My only challenge this year is that, damn, this off season, the early part of the season was exhausting. Yeah. The drama and the off the court stuff. I mean, it was just exhausting. And so, when they started having the success, it was hard for me to start enjoying it. First, I'm like, oh man, I'm just tired, and what's gonna happen? I was just waiting for what's gonna happen next, and how are you gonna ruin this for me?
Right.
But I've come around, and I'm back to myself, I think, and it's great, man. Yeah, it's awesome. They were here in Chicago, of course, the one night where they lost and broke their streaks. That was great.
Did you go to that? You didn't go.
I didn't go to that. I was working. My brother was there though. He was 2 rows behind the bench, so he had a good time. But yeah, no, they lost that unfortunately. But no, hey. Love them, they're rolling right now. Jacques Vaughn's doing something right, clearly. we got some good pieces. KD and Kyrie or KD and Kyrie, right? And good things ahead. We'll see. We'll see. We need a Derek Coleman type. That's what we need. I think. A big that can kind of step out, shoot, rebound, do some of that stuff. But we'll see.
No, we got Ben Simmons. Just let him start shooting. Yeah. How exciting!
Yeah.
Like, come on! Like, they have. I want to pick a game where like they're playing a team like the Pistons at home. Like, I would be like, Ben, just shoot 5 threes just for fun. How much fun would that be? Who cares if you airball? Like, you already.
Man, listen, I don't even need him to shoot some. I just need him to drive the ball. Like just at least go back to what you used to do, right? Before we expand to any other new skill sets, just drive to the basket. And I don't know what's going on with him, right? We all know he had the spine surgery. He's got some mental things going on. His knee flared up a little bit here and there. So it's going to take some time to work himself back. No question about it. So we don't know what's going behind the scenes and how he looks, but I hope that as the season progresses, he'll continue to kind of build and get better and better because we need him to be in prime form, I think, by the time the playoffs come around.
All right. Well, Dr. Patel, if anyone has a child in the Chicago area and they completely destroy their ACL, MCL area, look up your guy.
Come find me. Happy to help.
He doesn't take insurance, though. Don't worry about it. So it's just cash, right?
Cash yeah, right. No way, man. I'm just trying to help the kids, man. We take anyone that shows up. In all seriousness, we take anybody who shows up. Yeah, so whatever you need.
Cash. I understand. Yeah. I understand. No, it's fine. I understand the business. My stepdad's a dentist, man. I understand the business. You don't need to. I appreciate your time, man. Thanks.
You got it, guys. My pleasure.
Take care, doctor.
All right, guys. Good talking to you.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Hopefully, we don't ever have to talk to you again. You know what I mean? Like every time we talk to you, it's sad.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I haven't talked to you guys in a while, which means that things have been pretty good health wise with the Nets. I think which is a good thing. So.
Right. Yeah, we got to have one on where it's we should have when everyone was healthy like a week ago, just to celebrate the fact that we didn't
just like hang out, right?
Just like what do we do? How do we even have a conversation about the Nets
we got nothing to talk
when
about.
everyone's healthy?
Yeah.
I think it was one game, right? It was just one game.
Right, with a clean injury report. Yeah. 1 or maybe 2. Yeah. It's all right. That's life.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I get PTSD like getting those Nets tweets, and you see the list of names that are out and Kevin Durant that's out, but
we'll
try.
It's all right. We'll be back. It'll be all right.
Thanks, dude. I'll talk to you.
All right, fellas. Talk soon. Appreciate it.
Bye. Brian.
Hey, Mike, that was great.
That was a delight.
Information rich.
I do have one question for you before we go. Because we're gonna go.
Okay.
You're Jock Vaughn, all right? You're sitting, stroking your beard. You see that Kevin Durant's out at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Who gets the bump? Who gets the biggest Brian Egan bump to fill those minutes, to fill that role? Is it a collection or is it just TJ Warren?
Yeah, I was going to say TJ Warren just because I'm a huge stan now for TJ Warren. I was going to say it's given this moment, there's a temptation I have to just play a ton of Kyrie Irving minutes. To be like, okay, like you're the guy now, like make up that difference. But he's also been playing a lot of minutes, and so I'm a little bit worried about just like completely dumping a whole bunch more usage onto him. So my heart says give the ball to Kyrie and just like let's go full hero mode for the next couple of weeks. But my mind is saying, all right, let's integrate. I mean, like we have our Udi Watanabes and our Edmund Sumners, and we have a deep bench. Let's rely on the guys. I mean, we go back to the Indiana game. We've got a deep bench. We can win games if we just rally. Wow, Lucy, here comes Lucy.
So don't you,
Wow.
Georgie?
Hey, Georgie.
Jerk. Sorry, she's scared because the kids.
Somebody broke something. I heard something smash before. Is that?
That was her.
Okay.
That was her punching the door.
Okay. She's scared.
Speaking of someone's got dog in them.
Literally.
I've got my beast.
So anyways, that's my lame take on that. But, relying on the collective, Mike, that's the way forward. It takes a village.
I like the collective. I love the village. Not the movie. We talked about that.
The Village People, the band.
The Village People. I do love the Village People. I've told you this. 4th grade talent show, I did my own version of YMCA. I did my own choreographed version, meaning I did not take the choreography from the original song. I created my own choreography off of YMCA.
So you didn't do the hand shapes? You made your own?
Iconic, one of the most iconic dance song combos. I decided it needed to be improved.
And you just did it by yourself? You didn't have 3 other people there with you?
It was just me.
Wow. Avant-garde.
Staring directly at the ground as I danced. It is such a vivid memory.
How did it go over?
I fucking slayed.
Wow.
People were throwing their panties at me, Bri. You think that's true?
I don't. I think it's weird. It's weird and untrue.
I honestly don't remember.
You blacked out because it went over because you bombed and in your new version of the YMCA dance. That makes sense to me. Mike, where do they find us?
No. I'm not. The Village. 1 sec, because I know you have to go. But Brian, see, it's on the Discord. Brian always wants to leave the pod, and I want to keep podding. I hope the Discord people know that. I'm here. I would do 5-hour pods if we could, but Brian is so busy.
I didn't know. I thought we were done. You said we had one more thing.
My concern is that as much as I love how Kyrie's been playing, I really think he's been playing great. He's been a leader on the court. He's been fantastic, unequivocally amazing. Like they still need like another guy who can be a reliable source of buckets. And that's why I think TJ Warren is by far the best option. Because like at least, so I don't know if he's healthy enough or he has the stamina to do this, but like at least if he's playing 30 minutes a game, you can probably expect 20 points a game from him. And I think the consistency is going to be key because you also need to like force the defense to respect another player besides Kyrie. We saw it at the end of the Miami game. The Nets pulled it off because they got an amazing tip in by Royce O'Neal, and they had amazing defensive play at the end where they fouled Jimmy Butler and didn't get a call. So my concern is that they don't have that true consistent third scorer who's now going to be elevated to the second scorer spot. Maybe it's TJ Warren, and I hope it is. And that's the end of the show. At BK Glue Guys on Twitter, netsdaily.com, The Athletic. Get yourself on the paywall at theathletic.com/Glue Guys, which is a subsidiary of the New York
If you don't shut out the Discord, Mike, I'm going to freak. I'm going to lose my mind.
Discord.gg/Glue Guys.
You did it, Mike. You did it. All right, everybody, we're out of here. See you on Friday morning, first thing, after this huge Celtics win. I mean, us winning against the Celtics is what I mean to say. You know what I meant. Bye, everybody.